Hello and welcome back to live coverage of the Pioneer 2K Open hosted by Apex Gaming. I'm Tandy, joined by Ross Merriam. Say hi, Ross.
Hi, Ross.
We got 3 rounds in the books. We just watched maybe the worst game of Magic I've ever seen. Hit the needle on Karn the Great Creator in a mono green devotion mirror. Not great.
Yeah,
Not great.
Mono Green Devotion Mirrors are known for going long. It was won in dramatic fashion by Jacob Becker, that game at least, ending in a draw since they could only finish 2 games in time. Well, that's how Mono Green goes, and that's kind of the risk. And there were plenty of it in the tournament. There's 9 copies in a 42-player field, so we're going to see some mirror matches. We're actually going to see a little bit more Mono Green Devotion this round. We got Devin Harrison against Zachary Powers. But Zachary Powers not playing Mono Green, so this is not a mirror. Powers playing Atarka Red with a little twist from Wilds of Eldraine.
Yeah, so Wilds of Eldraine, I don't want to say exactly what cards I think are the best from the set or anything like that, but I will say that there are tons of cards, not only adventure creatures, but also all sorts of other types of cards that are going to see play in Pioneer. I've already seen a bunch of them cropping up, like Questing Druid, and I'm really excited to see what this new Atarka Red deck has added with Wilds of Eldraine.
Yes, 3 copies of Raging Battle Mouse. Powerful little mouse, 2 mana, 2/1. Makes your second spell cost 1 less to cast, so you can surge cost Reckless Bushwhacker for 1 mana. And then has Celebration, which is if you've had 2 or more non-land permanents enter the battlefield under your control that turn. At the beginning of combat, you can give a creature you control +1/+1 until end of turn. This is a deck with a ton of cheap permanents. Burning Tree Emissary, Kumano faces Kakazan. So in the third chapter, when that exiles and comes back, that counts as a non-land permanent that
Nice.
just entered. You can easily turn Celebration on and get a lot of explosive starts with the Raging Battle Mouse alongside the cards that we've come to know in this deck.
Yeah, we're always looking for creatures that cost a red and one or red and a green because it gets played for free from Burning Tree Emissary, which is the heart and soul of the Atarka Red deck. It allows for surging the Reckless Bushwhacker, but maybe Battle Mouse is the new 2-drop that's going to make it over the top.
And one thing I like is it actually allows you to play a slightly higher curve. Normally, you had to be super concentrated on ones in order to execute your game plan effectively and consistently. Now, with Battle Mouse, you can play a few more twos, play them for 1 mana because of the ability. So we also see copies of Karizev and Rimrock Knight
Nice.
in the deck. Cards that cost 1 and a color so they can get cost reduced by the Battle Mouse.
All right. Well, the players are ready in the feature match here, so let's head on down there and let them begin. We got Mono Green Devotion from Devin Harrison versus Atarka Red from Zachary Powers. We'll see who takes it down.
And both of these players are currently 2-1, so back a little bit against the wall. They need to win this one to largely stay in contention. We got 4 players at 3-0. They're on our backup feature tables, so once this match finishes, we'll show you some undefeated action from our players that are doing very well so far in this tournament.
All right. Well, Kamano faces Kakazan coming down on turn 1 for Zachary Powers. It's going to be on chapter 1 and deal damage to everything. Hopefully we can get some big old dice on there so we don't use these tiny little yellow dice. Devin Harrison has Llanowar on turn 1. That's an ideal start for Mono Green Devotion. Let's see what he does on turn number 2.
Yeah, ideal starts from both players thus far.
All right, here's Wolf Willow Haven and a pass.
Had the Old Growth Troll in hand, but I don't think has another forest, so with the Nykthos couldn't deploy the powerful 4/4 as a defensive creature on turn 2. Might take a boatload of damage this turn.
All right, Kamano goes to chapter 2. We're going to play a Phoenix Chick, put a +1/+1 counter on it. We're going to play a Monastery Swiftspear.
Love getting the counter on the Flyer, a card that's a lot easier to get through the many creatures from the Mono Green Devotion deck. Gonna have to find a Cavalier to check that one in combat. Looks like Power's setting up for a really powerful turn 3. He's gonna get the third chapter of Kumano faces Kakazan that turn. Could set up a big surge on Reckless Bushwhacker if he has one, or a big Atarka's Command.
All right, here comes Kiora. All right, everyone's bringing their own dice. We got to stop that. It's killing me. How many loyalty does Kiora have? No one knows.
Looks like a 6. Yeah, we played Kiora, untapped the Haven land, and then had 3 mana left over because of the Llanowar Elves. Now we can deploy the Old Growth Troll. Still no third land for Devin Harrison, and only 1 blocker. This could be a big turn for Powers, and I think it has to be. The mono green deck is going to take over the battlefield, in the mid game. So you've got to do a lot of damage in the early game and then use your burn to finish them off. You have Play with Fire, you have Atarka's commands that go upstairs, and even Kumanos can pluck in for a point.
All right, here goes Monster Swift Spear into Burning Tree into Atarka's command. Deal you 3, pump the team. We're going to be sending in here for a lot of damage. The Burning Tree can't attack because it has Summoning Sickness.
Yeah, and all the other creatures have 3 power because the Swift Spear got prowessed by the Atarka's command, so this should be an attack for 8 once the Old Growth Troll blocks one of the ground creatures.
All right.
Sorry, an attack for
9.
9, yeah.
So, pick which one you want to block. Probably the Kumano because of the ability to exile the Old Growth Troll later on. Maybe the Swiss Spear because it gets big. Never Zergo, though.
Zergo Bellstriker is a solid singleton in the deck because it's legendary, but 1 mana 2/2 isn't that? Has that dash ability that can be relevant.
I say never Zergo as a term of endearment. Me and Zergo go way back. I was a big Tom Ross fan. Mid-20 teens, Zergo Bellstriker was a one of in a lot of his aggressive decks.
So Harrison down to 5 life, and there's still 4 creatures on Zachary Powers' battlefield. Not sure what the last card is. Actually, I think I saw it earlier, and it was Raminap Ruins. So that's another 2 damage if he draws another land.
And without a reach creature, this Phoenix chick is just coming across in the air unfettered.
Yep, that's 2 a turn. So I think Zachary Powers right now is looking like he'll get over the finish line here, but the mono green deck is super powerful. Could even set up a combo kill in the next couple turns.
All right, here's Old Growth Troll. And now we still have a bunch of mana floating. We went and nicked those for 3, 4, 5. So we got 2 floating.
It's for a 6 because of the Haven, so 3
Okay.
floating.
So
Now,
now
2
we have 2
floating.
floating. We're going to untap.
Now we make 10. So we have 10 green in pool now.
All right. We're going to use 6 of it for Storm the Festival. This is a great way to get back into the game, and you're seeing exactly what this mono green devotion deck can do.
There's a Cavalier.
And a Plukernos. So we got a reach blocker or 2 reach blockers. And we're going to draw 2 cards.
Okay, well, this game turned around in a hurry. An excellent turn here from Devin Harrison. And now Zachary Powers is probably going to need to find a burn spell. A burn spell and a land so that he can activate the Raminap Ruins would be enough.
Yeah. All right, and we still have 4 mana floating, so if a Nykthos is found here off of the Cavalier of Thorns, we can keep going.
But is he going to have time? Because this Pelucanos could transform, and now you got a big lifelinker. So probably has to find a Tarkus command. Can a Tarkus command on Harrison's turn say, you can't gain life, deal 3 to you?
Well, Ross, I don't think there's going to be another turn. Devin Harrison has a backup Nykthos devotion count. 3, 6, 9, 10, 13, 14, 15, 16 is what I count with the 4 floating.
Yeah, we had 10 before. We added 6 from the Storm the Festival.
So I think we're going to go up to 18. Yep. So I think we're going to go up to 18, and I know that there's a Karn the Great Creator in hand, and I think that things are about to get real sticky. Karn's going to go get Restorative Burst. It's going to give Devin Harrison some life and some cards from the graveyard. Those can be deployed. I don't think Powers is going to get to untap.
Yeah, we have graduated from the need for D6s. We need a D20 to keep track of all this mana.
We're going to need a D100 in a second. All right. 18 floating. This is turn 4, by the way.
Yeah, it's casual turn 4.
All right. Here's Karn the Great Creator with 14 floating. I'm not a math guy. You're a math guy. Do you know the amalgamation that you need to win with Karn the Great Creator? How much mana and devotion?
14 devotion, 2 Kioras, 2 Karns.
All right. Now, some builds I know
There's-
play a Heart of Kieran in the sideboard, so you can off your own Planeswalkers and bring them back with the Restorative Burst, so you only need 1 of each.
There's some other loops, but I've played this deck, but I've never really learned any of the loops. You just keep taking game actions until your opponent concedes.
Yeah, at some point they should concede. If they don't, well... We're going to go get... Oh. Well, instead of doing expensive combo that takes forever, Devin Harrison's doing something that I love to do, and that's go get the 6 cost... not Gate to the Afterlife. Oh, man. Godpharaoh Statue. And that's going to lock Zachary Powers from being able to play basically more than 1 spell a turn over the next few. And with Devin gaining some flying blockers here, it's going to be very difficult for Powers to do anything.
Well, if Powers can draw a Tarkus command, he has Raminap Ruins at hand. He can play Raminap Ruins, a Tarkus command on Harrison's turn for 4 mana. Deal you 3, you can't gain any life. That negates the threat of the Plukernos. If Harrison's not able to win that turn, we can just draw an untapped land and use the Raminap Ruins to finish him off.
So you are under the impression that Zachary Powers is going to get 2 more turns.
I'm not under that impression. I'm just saying that's the way he can potentially win.
Ah.
It's not likely.
Well, I'm pretty sure Devin could have won this turn via combo, but choosing to do the faster kill of play Godfair statue.
I
Powers.
don't think he had a second Karn is the problem.
But Restorative Burst still getting back like Cityscape Leveler, another Cavalier of Thorns. Like you can keep going.
Yeah, and the burst gaining 4 life too, but that's good enough. Powers didn't find any help off the top, and that is game one. A strong start from the Atarka red deck, but an even stronger start for Mono Green Devotion.
All right, Ross. So I'm going to get you to look through the sideboards in just a second, but when you do, I want you to look and see if there's a Chain Veil in the sideboard for Devin Harrison, because that would have been another pretty good card to go get, huh?
There is definitely a copy of the Chain Veil, but I'm looking over at Zachary Powers' sideboard because I think that's going to be the more relevant one. And I see 4 copies of Rending Volley, 3 Rampaging Ferocidon, 2 Destructive Revelry, 2 Roast, 2 Karizev's Expertise, 1 Tormod's Crypt, and 1 Witch Stalker Frenzy. That is
What
another
does that card do?
It's another Wilds of Eldraine card. 3 in a red instant. It costs 1 less for each creature that attacked this turn.
Nice.
Deal 5 damage to target creature.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I definitely like the Karizev's Expertise. That's the best card in the sideboard here. They're definitely coming in, being able to take an Old Growth Troll or take a Cavalier on a key turn.
Yep. And
Awesome.
play a free spell, too.
Yep. I can see the Rampaging Ferocidons. The mono green deck has a little bit of life gain. Stopping that, they put a bunch of creatures on the battlefield, so that
It's
damage
also
adds
very
up.
hard to block it.
Yeah, and a menace creature. So I like the Ferocidons. The question for me is, do we want these big removal spells? 2 Roast and a Witch Stalker Frenzy. They can deal 5 damage to an Old Growth Troll, but then the Old Growth Troll still sticks around as an aura. But maybe that's good enough. The issue is it doesn't kill Cavalier of Thorns.
It doesn't. And that's why mono green is often a problem for decks with red as the removal source, because the damage-based removal doesn't get very high until you start spending 3 mana. And for 2 mana is basically the cap on what you can spend when you're an aggressive deck with a low land count.
Yeah, so I could see Zachary Powers going either way on those. Maybe he wants the removal to clear blockers away. Maybe he figures I'm going to try to come out fast, use Play with Fire to take out an early mana creature to slow you down a little bit, and then by the time you get those big creatures out, I can go wide around them. Very nearly executed that game plan in game one, just a little bit too much devotion, too explosive of a draw from his opponent.
Now, we talk about Mono Green Devotion playing a Karn sideboard package, and I have my tried and true mantra where I say, no changes, right? And actually, someone no changes to me one time at an event that we played together a few years back in Indianapolis. I don't know if you remember that. When they were playing Mono Green Devotion. But that's just good branding for starters. But what I do want to say is that I do think Mono Green Devotion should sideboard some cards in this matchup because Karn's a little slow. So if they have the Filigree Silex or Ratchet Bomb, I think that should come in. And Eska's Chariot, just to generate some blockers, I think should also come in.
I completely agree. I think both of those are good. On
some of your more expensive stuff.
I could even see bringing in the Haywire Might. Just block your creature, gain 2 life.
All right, well, players are drawing their opening 7 for game number 2. Devin Harrison won an explosive game 1 on turn 4 by just doing some really ridiculous stuff. Zachary Powers looks like he's going to keep his opening 7. And we're going to be off to the races here once Devin finds a keepable one. And Powers is going to be on the play, though. It's going to change the dynamic of the game and maybe the whole match.
And we saw Brian Hayes in round 1 keep a rather slow hand in a slower matchup. Devin Harrison against Atarka Red, you can't keep any slow hands here. Got to come out of the gates quickly or you are going to get run over.
All right, Harrison drawing a 6er. Got to put one back if he keeps. I see Land, Old Growth Troll, Wolf Willowhaven, Nykthos, Karn. I think this is probably a keep if that is a Wolf Willowhaven, even though you don't have an elf.
Yeah, can't mulligan too aggressively for an elf. It's apparently Harrison disagrees.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you have going into a tournament with Mono Green Devotion, if you just have a little slip of paper next to you that says mulligan if you don't have an elf in your opener, I think you'll probably increase your win percentage with the deck by 10%.
Yeah, it's very different the games when you have it, and Devin is also on the draw this game, so the pressure is on him even more to come out of the gates quickly.
On Pioneer, we often describe the decks as two ships passing in the night when each of their game plans are so focused and require so many moving parts. Mulliganing to five also not that big of a deal unless you're playing a deck that needs a lot of raw resources. Monogreen Devotion is one of those decks against an opponent who's being interactive, killing your Llanowar Elves. You'll start missing land drops if you mulligan to 5 or 4, but I think it's important to just be explosive, especially against Atarka Red.
And this is a matchup where you don't need to go super over the top in some games.
Right.
If you're able to stave off damage early, your 4/4s and 5/6s will take over the game just fine.
Yeah, agreed. All right, looks like we're happy with the 5. Harrison going to put 2 back. We're off to the races. Turn 1 Swisser, bang, 1 damage. Harrison, can you match? Did you mulligan to Elf? Mulligan to Elf.
Okay, does Powers have the play with fire?
All right, here's a Carplusian Forest. See what he wants to do on turn 2. Turn 2 is potentially scary for these Atarka Red decks because you can go Burning Tree into another spell, and sometimes you can go into multiple Burning Tree emissaries.
Burning, yep. Very, very powerful potential for turn 2 in this Atarka Red deck. And I do see at least one Burning Tree Emissary in hand.
No, don't quote me on this. Oh, there it is. The Battle Mouse.
And we do have Celebration now. The Burning Tree and the Battle Mouse both enter the battlefield this turn, so we're going to trigger that. Probably target the Monastery Swift Spear.
Yep.
Get in for 2.
Gonna Harrison down to 17.
Yeah. Once again, Zachary Powers not going, super all in on turn 2, but is well set up for a very powerful turn 3.
Yep, and that's kind of the nature of the beast. You don't always need to go Burning Tree, Bushwhacker. And sometimes Burning Tree, Bushwhacker is not good, and you want to build a bigger battlefield presence before doing it. Here's the Surge Reckless Bushwhacker, thanks to the cost reduction from the Battle Mouse. We've got another spell. It's a Monastery Swift Spear, and we're going to be chunking on in. We had to sequence it like that because we needed the cost reduction for the Surge off the Raging Battle Mouse. And here comes a huge swing. We're going to lose one of our creatures, and that's it. And we're going to deal 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 with the Battle Mouse trigger if the Battle Mouse is the one that gets blocked.
Yeah, so it looks like Powers is organized. The creatures up top are 2 power, the ones in the middle are 3, and the Swift Spear at the bottom is a 1.
Okay. Gonna go back Harrison's way.
That should have been 10 damage.
Yeah, I was off by 1 because of the Swiss Spear that was played post Surge.
Yeah. Which, like you said, had to be because of how Raging Battle Mouse works. Only the second spell gets cost reduced, not every spell after the first.
Right. All right, Harrison here. Needing some help. He's at 6, but with 1 blocker in play, he's not facing down lethal. And if he plays another blocker, it's going to be maybe difficult for Powers to finish the job.
And
Harrison, going digging through a sideboard has, Karn the Great Creator kind of face up when you do this, right?
unlike last game, Powers here doesn't have that evasive threat in Phoenix Check, though I guess the Bluegrass would check that regardless.
All right, here's Old Growth Troll, and now we got 3 blockers versus 5 attackers. Can Zachary Powers draw his namesake card, Atarka's Command?
Really just needs any spell. If he's able to trigger Prowess, he's going to deal a good amount of damage, and you're at least in burn range.
A very confident attack from Powers, going to be losing 3 creatures and only getting across 2 damage unless he drew a spell, and we're going to move to blocks.
Yeah, I do like this attack. You want to get Harrison into burn range. That's how you're going to finish this game, and you force a trade for the Llanowar Elves. That keeps Harrison off of mana. It keeps him away from transforming the Pelucanos, which will end the game on the spot. And now you're very close to having a single burn spell end the game.
Okay.
Wonder what the spell is in Power's hand that he didn't want to cast.
How do you know it's a spell?
Yeah, it does suggest that it is a land. The lack of a play, that is.
All right. Oath of Nissa, the draw for Harrison. Looks like we're going to go ahead and start with that. Looking for another mana source. We did have to block with the elf to stifle the damage. Keep us out of burn range, hopefully. There's a Nykthos. That's going to be a huge burst of resources for Harrison. He's going to make 3, 6, 7. So he can play Karn the Great Creator and get a 3 or 2 out of his sideboard and play it. Maybe a Haywire Might, like you said, to be a 1/1 that can block and gain 2 life.
Yeah, Haywire Might would be great. If the Filigree Silex stayed in the sideboard, that one would be great.
Is that a Soulless Jailer?
Yeah.
That's a cool one. Not in this matchup, but just in general.
It is an 0/4.
It is no 4. That's
Block.
true. Yeah, and there's not a ton of targets for X equals 3 or fewer when you're using Card in the Great Creator in these Mono Green Devotion decks. Normally, you have a couple of utility things that cost 1, 2, and 3, and then you have a bunch of huge payoffs that at different mana and different points in the game can be devastating for the opponent.
Yeah, I wonder if Devin Harrison, instead of playing Karn, would rather just sink this mana into the Pelucranos.
You know, that's a great point. It does become a 6/6 lifelinker on the backside. He does have to pay 2 life or
Yeah.
white mana to transform it. But I believe Powers had a 3 damage spell or a 2 damage spell. He would have played it last turn to win the game.
Yes. So yeah, you know it's not play with fire or Atarka's command.
All
Ooh,
right.
that is the filigree Silex, so
Okay.
stayed in the sideboard, and Harrison getting paid off for that decision here.
3 creatures going to rumble in. Only 2 can be blocked. Powers can win the game with the play with fire or Atarka's command, but he needs it now. Otherwise, Devin Harrison's going to be exploding next turn.
Looks
Powers.
like a Phoenix chick.
Yeah. That is an extra blocker, but it's still not quite, or extra attacker, but it's still not quite lethal. The other card doesn't look like a land, though.
What is it?
Well, it's not Karizov's expertise. That would end the game on the spot. Here's a Phoenix chick.
Gotta get in there.
All right. Swinging on in. At you. All right. 2 get blocked. That's 2 damage coming across. Now, Harrison going to get to untap with a boatload of mana and an active card in the Great Creator, and Filigree Silex is going to be able to take care of the 1-drops from the other side of the table.
Yeah, but that was an important 2 damage because now, unless Devin Harrison can cobble his way into some white mana, he's not going to be able to transform that Pelucranos.
All right, well, going to take a look at the sideboard here again. Can go get Pestilent Cauldron, which on the backside is Restorative Burst. That can gain him some life. Chainveil doesn't seem that great without the Kiora active. No targets in the graveyard for the Restorative Burst other than Llanowar Elves. But maybe just wants to gain the life.
Yeah, I might have gone for Haywire Might. You can generate 8 mana here, so you can play Might, sack it targeting your own Filigree Silex, sack your Silex in response, and then have 6 mana floating. You go up to 4 life. Now I can transform the Pelucranos and attack and go up to 8 against a clear battlefield, and the game's basically over. But Restorative Burst will likely end the game anyway. Just getting out of burn range, I think, is enough because a single burn spell off the top is really Zachary Power's only viable way to close out this game.
Yeah. All right. Minus. Gonna go looking. Finally makes the decision. Well, still thinking.
I get,
What were you gonna say, Ross? Say it.
I'm trying to think if there's a way a Karizev's expertise could steal this game. We're going to go to 6 from Restorative Burst. If both creatures stay back, then whatever creature you take can get blocked by the other one. So I don't see an avenue there.
All right. Well, Harrison does grab Restorative Burst / Pestilent Cauldron, and it looks like we're going to be casting that in some capacity. We're going to float with Nykthos, and then we're going to probably pop Filigree Silex, doing the play that Ross mentioned just a moment ago, so we get back 2 things from the graveyard instead of just 1. Although, can we get Restorative Burst on the screen? There's a weird thing on it. I don't know if you can get artifacts back. I think it's just creatures, planeswalkers, and lands. So, like, sometimes you can get back Nykthos. Let's see. Creature, lander, planeswalker. Ah, hey, he still got it. So, Restorative Burst here. Going to be gaining 4 life for both players, though. The 4 life for Power is not nearly as relevant as the 4 life for Harrison. But, you know, still pretty sweet. We're going to just get back Llanowar Elves.
Okay. So basically just using it to gain 4 life. It's still in exile for future Karn activations. Now we can use the Filigree Silex to clean up Power's board, play this last Llanowar Elves, and really start attacking and getting this game over with.
I really like popping the Silex, attacking for 8, and then playing Llanowar Elves post-combat. That gives you a blocker for a haste creature from the other side, and it allows you to just start pressuring Powers here. Okay, looks like that's what we're going to do. We can also transform Pelucranos next turn, going to 4 life, making a 6/6 lifelinker that will put him even further out of burn range. Nothing. Didn't play the Burning Tree. Maybe he was holding it for the Surge effect.
But if he had played the Burning Tree 2 turns ago, and then he draws the haste creature. He left his opponent at 2.
Right.
That could have been lethal.
Yeah, unfortunate for him. Maybe a misstep there from the Atarka red deck. That Zachary Powers being defeated there. Devin Harrison's Mono Green Devotion taking it down. We're seeing a lot of Mono Green Devotion win today.
Or draw.
Or draw today.
The only thing we're not seeing is Mono Green Devotion losing.